And I will now turn this webinar over to Ms. Cheryl Jackson for us to begin.
And good morning. Am I showing the right screen for everyone?
Yes, it looks good.
Fantastic. I am Cheryl Hudson Jackson, the Director of Franchise and Business Enterprise for the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago under the Breed Love Entrepreneurship Center. And today we're going to talk about how to bring the best out of your employees from an entrepreneurial leadership perspective. So let's talk about this. You know, there's this never-ending issue or dilemma about morale and retention when it comes to employers trying to find the right employees. And so today, I'm going to give you some helpful tips. We're going to talk a little bit about what is it that you can do to keep the great employees that you have, and let's talk about how to find really good employees to be in your organizations. So let's just get started. As business owners, you know that it is critical for you to have talented employees that value your business as much as you do, which means that you need to have a mission and a full understanding of what you want your business to be. Clearly, you understand the brand and that what it is that you're bringing to the consumer, but it's important that those who represent you on the front line have that same understanding as well. So when you're looking for these employees, you have to ask yourselves, what's the right personality, the right energy, the right grit that you need in this individual to represent exactly your brand. And then being able to see what that brand looks like in your mind's eye so that you can be able to communicate it effectively when you're interviewing your future employees. And then also reminding those that are presently working for you that they represent the brand every day when they're facing customers. And then the most important part of this is that your return on investment regarding staffing comes with the training that you're measuring, the training that you're giving them, and that you're measuring it against customer retention, referrals, and reviews. So the burning question is how to retain these individuals. And one of the things that I've come to understand from conversations with other business owners is that it's one thing to interview and think that you've gotten the right person. It's another thing to make sure that you are structured appropriately so that they're set up for success. And so today's presentation, you're going to hear a common theme through all the slides about your responsibility and their responsibility. So the day will cover 5 keys to staffing smart, mission and vision, training your employees to embody what your business stands for, trust, and how to build this attribute in your employees, responsibility, which would be maximizing the employee's strengths, contribution, team versus individual contributor, and rewards, the way to celebrate wins. So here's what I need you to understand. In the 5 keys of staffing smart, you have to be very savvy in your hiring process. Oftentimes, we start small businesses and we just feel that we need a body to come in and do the work. But we need to be more thoughtful and intentional about the type of individual that will represent your brand in the best way, which means that writing a job description is important. And I know for a lot of small businesses, that's not a skill that they have originally. I mean, they have to learn how to write a job description that really captures not only the brand, but the kind of energy and the kind of responsible person that you would want representing your organization, which means that you have to be able to determine what the actual responsibilities are, the personalities of the individual, what type of persona that they'll be able to reflect in reference to what the brand is. So the consequence of hiring that is that it's someone that gives you a great energy and interviews very well. They become part of your team and they just don't fit. And when they're not fitting, it affects a small business in a huge way because typically there's only 2 or 3 people working there. So if you got one person with bad energy, it brings everyone else down. It dips the morale, and inevitably your clients will feel that energy. So it's so important to make sure that you are looking at the job description, looking at that person and asking some very critical questions of that person's performance and how they see the business. But I also will encourage you to make sure that when you're looking to hire someone, you ask yourself, what do you think this person needs to have to be successful, not only to sell what it is that you have, but also able to take instruction and work well with you, which means that you have to be very mindful of your personality, your ability to lead, and your style so that it is clearly communicated to that individual that you're about to hire so that they understand when you are in the zone and you seem to be really quiet and focused, that that is only you focusing in on the business and has nothing to do with how you feel about that person. Because once again, when you're dealing with small businesses, every personality issue counts. Every scenario that you will encounter with them, they will take on personally because they're wanting to do their very best for you. Also, you need to become creative and competitive. So small businesses tend to not have the ability to pay a whole lot of money, not like larger ones. So you have to be very competitive and creative in terms of your compensation, which means that maybe it's more of being able to pay what the market is as bearing and being able to put a benefit package together if you have the means to do that. If not, then it becomes a moment of you becoming more creative. And we're going to talk about this later on in the presentation. But an example of that would be if you're not able to offer benefits, but you are able to structure the day where they end up having a weekend that's 2 days as opposed to 1 day, or you're able to give them a bonus incentive that means that if they are able to meet critical targets within your business, you're going to be able to provide them with a gift card or complimentary lunch or the ability to contribute at the end of the year during a holiday to their favorite charity. So I have some ideas around that as we get further into the presentation. Celebrating achievements becomes important. Everybody wants to be validated for the work that they do. It's really huge. Matter of fact, we find statistically that more people are more inclined to stay with their organization, even if they're not being paid at market rate, because they feel appreciated and that they're part of the fabric of the organization, which means that communication becomes very key, and the ability to recognize individuals doing great things becomes important to how you lead, which means that in the case of millennials, they don't like to be considered average. So if you've got millennials working for you, then you need to let them know that they are really bringing the juice. If you're working with individuals that are traditional or baby boomers, they particularly like having recognition in the shape of a certificate or some accreditation or being able to lead in a project. So understanding what makes your employee tick is important on how then you're able to celebrate their achievements. It's meaningful for them as an individual. You need to know the people who work for you, which means that the interview is great, but having a discussion with them about themselves is important as well. What they aspire to do. I mean, coming to you, working in your particular company, they might have aspirations to be a business owner as well. So getting an opportunity to know what they would like to do, what their future goals are and how they might align with the work that you're going to have them do is important because you're now investing in their dreams. And again, this goes a long way, especially when you have very limited income to be able to give them, but you give them wonderful experiences that they can put on their resumes if in fact they choose to lead, or they feel good about the fact that they have an opportunity to contribute in a way that they've been dreaming of, which is part of their goals. And last but not least, the frontline knows, which means that as much as you might have a product that you think is fantastic, they're on the front line dealing with the clients, and they get the chance to hear exactly how your brand and products are being received. And it's important for you to listen to their feedback. It allows you to pivot and being able to bring the best product and the best brand forward that your customers are really going to enjoy and come back again and again and buy. So therefore, your employees are not just there to sell, but they're there to listen and give you market research feedback just in place, just on time, so that you can then be able to do the right things that you need to do to make sure that your products are meeting the needs of the customers that you're trying to attract. One of the things that we have found with small businesses is that though when you write your business plan, you write a mission and a vision statement, oftentimes it doesn't get a chance to manifest itself into the workplace. It's something that's it's very high and lofty, but it really needs to be a concept that's applicable so that your employees understand exactly what it is that they're doing and what they're working for. So great employees are critical to every small business, and even happy workers might be tempted to explore other opportunities because they think the grass is greener on the other side. So when you lose an employee, it's a major concern to a small business. And so the Center for American Progress estimated that replacing employee costs averages about 20% of an employee's annual salary, which is a huge impact to a small business. So it's important that all employees understand the operations and they understand the mission and the vision of a company. When you lose someone in your organization, it has such a huge ripple effect. So it's important to understand the vision and the mission and being able to help them manifest that in the way they walk through your company every day. So one of the things that we like to say is that you need to be able to put the right aces in the right places when it comes to employees doing the work, but it is your responsibility for them to understand the mission and the vision of what it is that you want them to do. From the way they dress, the way they greet people, their eye contact, to how they clean up your facility or how they are able to upsell. All of those things are woven into the mission and vision of what you want your business to be. So it's very important that you are very clear. So an example of that would be when I had a retail store, I was very clear with my employees exactly why I did this business. I gave them the skinny business plan, the executive summary experience minus the finance, right? How I came into the business, why I wanted to do this business, what I envisioned the business to do, what I'm hoping that they're going to help me to do in my journey. What is the key element that I want every customer to get when they come in the door and when they leave? Being able to explain that and lean in and have your employees buy into what it is that they're a part of makes it even more clear for them and brings a sense of pride that they want to be able to exhibit exactly that same energy that you brought to them when you sat down to tell them about the way the business came into being and the vision and the mission of what this business is going to be. So communication, communication, communication. Again, here are 3 reasons why vision and mission are so important. It makes the employee proud. It makes the work more meaningful. and increases commitment and morale, and it reinforces the goals of the small business. What is the goal? The end goal, yes, might be revenue, but it's also that they get a quality product or service that you're representing. And that only comes when you're able to sit down and pour into your employee exactly why they're there, what this business is, and where this business is going. Which brings into another key component, and that's the concept of trust. How do you build trust in your employees? So as we were just sharing, I was just sharing, being honest, being transparent with them around business goals and how everyone's doing against these goals. So in my old store, I used to have goals every week, and I had them posted in the employee area. And on once a month, we would get together and have donuts and coffee and have kind of a continental breakfast. And we talked about how everybody did against the goals and had some attaboys. But what was very important is that everybody got a chance to every week go to the board and see how they were doing. And actually, the store lead was responsible for moving the thermometer for each one of the employees in reference to their goals for the week. So they visually got a chance to see exactly how well they were doing in terms of sales and upselling and engaging customers and keeping the store clean, rearranging the end caps. I mean, all of the things that are important when you have a standalone store to make it look inviting and clean and prepared for customers to come in and have a wonderful experience became a goal that they got a chance to control. And making sure that those goals are met and celebrated are very critical. It allows them to be in control of the destiny that they are responsible for, that you shared with them, which is you want the best store possible, you want the best customer service experience, and therefore the experience is based on these particular goals. I think that what I have learned from being a business owner, as well as the coaching and mentoring of other small businesses, is that oftentimes when you're a small business, you are so involved and so bogged down that writing the goals and keeping up with them sometimes becomes very hard. But what I will tell you is taking the time to do this has a huge payoff. And once you get it started, it becomes very easy to do, being able to set the goals and being able to measure them. And the celebration tends to be even more exciting. I mean, having the team activities where you're huddling up and you're giving each other attaboys and talking about how the business is doing allows them to feel a sense of responsibility and ownership, which is what allows them to stay with your organization. If they don't feel like they're a part of anything big, it gives them the opportunity to seek that feeling elsewhere. Having the ability to observe your employees is very, very important, because they're going to show you what their skills are. And you might have an individual that works for you that's very creative, that loves social media, and could take that opportunity off your plate if in fact you're doing that yourself. There could be someone that's very visually artistic and being able to rearrange and create a different look and feel in your store on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, so that clients come in feeling that they're seeing something new and not the same thing over and over again. You might have a employee that is very good in being able to cursively write a handwritten thank you note to your most valued clients. So there's a lot of great talent that your employees could bring that you should be able to observe and then encourage the collaboration and showcase their expertise in the team. Again, another way of being able to keep retention and being able to meet the needs that they have, which is to be a part of something big, something growing, something that is positive and lands well with them. and then exhibit leadership behavior. So here is the fun part of being a owner. Sometimes that frustration of not making your numbers or someone not delivering your product on time, those dilemmas that hit us every day, it is important that we learn how to handle that very professionally because your staff is watching you, especially those who aspire to have a business like yours or have a business in general. You are the role model. So that means that you must exhibit the most positive leadership. And that doesn't mean that you can't be disappointed or upset, but what it does mean is that you need to be able to handle that in the most poised and professional way so that they then see exactly the right example of handling turmoil or duress or issues that would upset them, including if in fact they're on the floor dealing with customers. Oftentimes our customers can really push our buttons, and how you're able to show them how to handle a troublesome client or how to handle a troublesome situation where things are not lining up appropriately gives them a role model. It models the behavior and gives them an opportunity to understand how to handle adversity, even in the most unopportune time. So again, exhibiting leadership and professional behavior with your staff is going to go a long way of being able to shaping and molding them into the professionals that you seek to have them in your workplace. Responsibility. So this is an interesting perspective because it shows up differently in each generation. And baby boomers, if you tell them exactly what you want them to do, they will do it. And then they will also try to see a bigger picture and add more value, figure out how they can add a little extra secret sauce. But when you get down to somewhere in there with the generations X, Ys, and Zs, sometimes you don't necessarily get the view that you would normally get in a baby boomer. Just understanding every generation sees things different and will attack things differently. So that's the reason why you have to watch their performance and making sure you have the right aces in the right places. Listening to them and watching them, their behaviors will actually give you better insight on how you maximize their strengths and responsibilities that you give them. Now, I'm not telling you that everybody needs to have a custom job, meaning that the only work that they do is the thing that they're good at. But what I am telling you is that everybody learns very differently, and their incentives actually need to be custom to them. So for instance, I had individuals who worked for me that were baby boomers, and they really did enjoy having the ability to have some time off, and moreover, they liked having the projects where they were in control versus my Z's were like, hey, if I get the work done and it looks good, can I have my time back? So, you look at what makes them tech and what blows their hair back, and you're able to then sit back and create an environment that will speak to all of their desires of reward, but also put them in positions where they're able to add the most compelling impact to the job. Again, goal setting and feedback. So communication becomes very clear in a position where if you're not talking to your employees, you're not going to know what's going on. I mean, you can watch them, but you really need to be able to engage in conversations around selling the product, hearing the feedback from the customers, and you have to set them up to be able to have those kinds of discussions. So if you find that you've hired someone that's a little bit more shyer than you thought, you're going to need to be able to help them by giving them feedback on how well they're interfacing with the clients. And maybe you might have to give them a couple of questions that you have them practice as kind of their staple that they bring out from time to time to measure exactly how the customer experience is going. So moving an employee into a project manager role would be a great opportunity when you see them step up in that position to be able to give them the responsibilities through their tasks of seeing how well they are doing um, and how they effectively are able to extrapolate information from the clients and be able to give it to you. And that goes back to the goal setting and the feedback that we were talking about earlier. So why clear communication is important is because if you're not talking and observing what's going on in your workplace, you have then no control over the mayhem that will ensue. And trust me, there will be some. There's something about letting people not, maybe the better way of saying it is nothing worse than not giving guidance, because then you get mayhem and then you wonder why you get it. And it all points back to you as a leader. Communication is very, very important. It has to be very clear. The goals and objectives, absolutely. Hiring people and telling them exactly what you want them to do is important. That way they go back to what it is that you shared with them that you expected them to do. And that helps them have their own kind of bumpers in their bowling alley. You know how you have the bumpers so that you don't get gutter balls? That is what goals are about. That's what setting clear communication is all about. That way you're sure that they're going to hit a pin, maybe get a full strike, but definitely without setting up good, clear goals and having good communication will allow your business to suffer, actually. And again, when you only have 2 or 3 people, it's important that everybody understands what their role is and how they're all equally valued. But again, if you don't give them that feedback or clear communication, they will create their own organizational hierarchy, and they'll determine who gets the spoils. And that's your responsibility as a leader, not theirs. So now we're at the contribution, the team versus individual contributor. So what does that really mean? Well, employee involvement happens when employees participate in meetings and projects. But in the context of the never-ending dilemma of morale and retention, you need them to be engaged in the process from the very step. So when you're interviewing these individuals, you need to have very mindful questions that's going to give you the indicator that they are the indication that they have thoughts and they are creative and they could add value. And then being able to set the employee's skills and expertise in the right space and allowing them to show you that they can do what they said that they can do is important. And then from there, you're able to identify who would be great at particular roles in your organization versus those who are more suited for other roles within your organization. But it's important to involve your employees in creating a positive culture in your store and your business. Because you have a brand and you've decided to have employees to help you expand that brand out to your customer base, it's important for them to understand that they are the brand too. And oftentimes we forget that, down to including what you want your client to experience coming into your store or interfacing with you on the internet if you have a online business. I'll give you an example. I just came back from Atlanta and I was walking through, before I came home, I decided, I would walk through a couple of the airport stores just to observe what kind of customer service was going on nowadays and how many people are working in these kiosk stores in the airport and where were the employees standing. I mean, just kind of doing my own mystery shopping. And what I found is that in the stores that had large square footage, I was able to walk into the store and take about 10 steps before anyone even acknowledged or said hello. That's interesting because there should always be a greeting happening when someone crosses your threshold, because it sets the tone for the customer experience and the brand. Where and where you're standing in the store also makes that a differentiator between I'm just a cashier versus I'm a consultant here to work with you to give you the best experience possible. So when I went into the stores, some were literally standing in the doorway where I got a greeting and asked if I could be helped. And then I had some that were standing behind the cash wrap, just kind of looking around and living in their own world. And until I was ready to purchase or ask a question, did I ever get acknowledged? So I felt in that one store is that I really didn't matter. All you really wanted was my money because you never acknowledged me as a customer or someone you wanted to have a customer relationship with, versus those who were able to greet me literally when I walked in the door and ask if they could be of assistance. And since I was looking, they let me look, but they did follow back up within a good 5 or 10 minutes to see if there was anything that I needed help with, or actually came and showed, hey, I just wanted to let you know we have this for sale, or there's a really cool special we have. So they actually wanted to engage me into the experience that the store was having. Those individuals that you have on your team that are not shy and afraid of clients really should be the ambassadors that are down front, making sure that your brand is well represented when the customer comes through your virtual door or comes through your real door. And making sure that your store is fresh and clean and the cash wrap is ready for the exit experience of wrapping up and bagging up your product. Though all those things go into creating a wonderful customer experience, and being able to identify those on your team that really thrive in those critical areas and having them working there actually is a great way of starting up having aces in their places. But don't get me wrong, they shouldn't be relegated to that space all the time. I think that everybody on your staff should have the opportunity to stand in each one of those spots, those critical places within your store, be it down front, cash register, or on the side, being able to keep the product fresh and looking lovely so that they all can appreciate all the work that everyone does, and that all of it together equals a customer experience that represents the brand. So I look at the contributorship of each employee as an individual, but as a team, they come together to be able to reinforce the positivity and the exceptionalness of your particular brand, a standalone store or a service. So you'll ask me, so Cheryl, if you're doing a digital service, how does it play out? Well, the person who answers the telephone has a huge responsibility. See, when you see people in face to face, if they are standing there smiling and they're neat and they're clean and they're stylish and they're everything that you want a brand, that whole entire package tends to tell the story. But when you don't see anybody and all you can hear is their voice, it becomes more important for their vocal skills to be able to engage individuals to the brand experience. So having someone who answers the phone that has a very upbeat, energetic voice is far more engaging and will get the client to lean in more than to have someone who is not so excited about being on the phone. So, or dealing with someone in a very digital experience. So I give you a prime example. I was talking to another client most recently about their digital interface and the individuals that are taking orders over the phone for them. And I asked, I said, so how do they greet your clients? Is it, do they come up with, they say the name, they give a tagline and they introduce their name, or do they just kind of go, hello, my name is? Because there's a difference between saying, hi, welcome to Betty's Bakery. This is Cheryl speaking, versus, hello, this is Cheryl. Yeah, you see the difference? Being able to make sure that you script out what it is that you want your employees to say when they don't come with a full package of people visually seeing their body and the way they're made up and how they project themselves and how they enter and how the greeting interchanges from person to person. It's very different and sometimes difficult to translate all that high energy into a vocal experience. But if you're able to provide a script and have them practice, they can be equally as effective. Again, playing into the strengths of who you have, but again, hoping that your total team can operate in all of those key positions. Okay, let's go on to the things that we covered today. So we've covered the 5 keys to staffing smart. Again, I want to make sure that you understand that staffing smart requires you to have a job description. Staffing smart requires you to really understand the nature of your business and being able to sit down and actually do a flow chart of exactly where you want your people to be and what they will do, and have a job description that talks to that. So if you have a one-person store, if you are, it's just you and this one employee that you're about to hire, it makes it a little bit more easier because now you can sit down and talk about the mission and vision and tell them what it is that you want them to do and how you will be interfacing with them and all the activities that you have planned. So it's important that you meet with them every day very quickly just to give them an idea of what to expect. But if you're setting up pop-up shops, or you're going to farmers markets, or if you're going to participate in events where the brand is going to be showcased, and how you might want them to help you participate in those things by getting you either packed up to go to those pop-ups, or actually working those pop-ups, or working those seminars, or working those farmers markets. It's important for them to understand exactly what is it the end game is going to be for each one of those events and how they play a part in it. So that means that your communication needs to be very clear, understanding the mission and vision of that particular experience, and being able to trust them to be able to do the work, which means that trust is built around setting them up for success. That includes that you're very clear on exactly what it is that you want them to do, and that they've been able to be rewarded in a way when they're doing a great job. So for instance, if you had a really good day at your store and your goal was to sell $500 worth of merch and you sold $700 worth of merch, we need to acknowledge that that day it doesn't get a chance to marinate. When you see great successes, you need to call them in and let your employees know that they were fantastic that day, and ask, what did we do different? What happened this day? So that you can start writing down potentially how the experiences are being fulfilled, and learning from them and incorporating them into the regular work environment. If you find that on that Saturday and you made that $200 over target, and that was because someone actually put on a scarf or demonstrated how a product could be utilized that wasn't evident, and that experience actually made people buy more, then maybe that's something you might want to integrate into how you sell. And so that person who came up with that feels really great because they help move the business forward. So that's how you, in that case, you need to really lean in to make sure that you listen to your employees and you trust that they're bringing their A game. Responsibility and strengths that herein lies where I want you to really lean into this. The responsibilities that you give to your employees come with the understanding that they know exactly what they're supposed to do. And that means that you need to be clear on what they need to do. If you're not clear and you just say, go sell this, whatever they decide to do to sell it is to their own, it's on them, then you can't be angry if you didn't like the way the product was sold because you didn't give the guidance that was important. And so to maximize the strengths of your employees, be very clear about the responsibilities that you give them. Again, we talked about contributorship, being able to maximize on what they do and how they do it, and being able to reward them, celebrating the wins. All right. So let's go over and talk a little bit about the concept of having talented employees and appearance. So you can have individuals who could really sell well and represent your company orally, but there's something to be said about how people are being packaged to come to work and having pride in the work that they do and being able to help your employees be their very, very best. So how to bring the best out of your employees and when it comes to their appearance and their communication skills. Well, I'm going to tell you that oftentimes it is important for you to distill having those difficult conversations about style by creating your own look and feel in terms of a uniform. And I'm not saying you need to go out and have everybody have a uniform, but quite frankly, it actually helps the employee not have to think about what is it that they have to wear to work to be able to represent your brand. So having t-shirts and shirts or baseball caps that have the brand logo on it that comes with, you know, if you're wearing a t-shirt, it's always a black pant. If you're wearing a shirt, it's always a black pant. Until the summer, maybe you might decide that they can wear a white pant. But, you know, being able to help them understand the business colors and logos also helps them to be able to dress in a way that reinforces your brand. Being respectful of each other becomes important. Sometimes when we work together and we're too close to each other, we forget that we're there to do business and maybe one of your employees is mad at the other employee. Well, the client should never know that. That should be handled in a very different way, and how you're able to help them understand how that works, to be able to retain them, to be able to make them understand that you believe in them, is that you should talk about how does one handle differences in the workplace. That becomes very important. It's interesting because, again, when you're a small business, it's probably only 2 or 3 people working. But if 2 or 3 people are working, sometimes they feel that one is doing more work than the other. And so that's the reason why the goals and objectives and roles and responsibilities have to be very clear and evenly handled so that no one ever feels taken advantage of. And then again, the return on your investment from training your staff will actually show itself up in the cash register and the reviews that you get and the customer retention that you have. So here are examples of inspirational posts that you can put on your wall to have your employees be able to understand and get excited that, you know, and I wanted to make sure I gave you a couple of these because I thought it was very important for you to inspire your staff, be it's only one person or 2 people. They need to understand that you are standing for their greatness and being able to give them the encouragement that they desire and that will allow them to see themselves bigger than they are. But I also want to talk a little bit about the examples of how to reward your staff as you continue to grow. So one of the things that people will use as their typical reward to retention is to give your staff benefits. Well, if you're able to give them benefits, and they can range from giving them the full boat of medical, dental, life insurance, those kinds of things, or an abbreviated version of that, which could be dental and life and their birthday off. You need to be able to be very mindful around what's going to appeal to your pocketbook, your ability to keep your business open, and to them. And sometimes that's a very delicate balance, because often as a small business, you need everyone to work all the time. But if you're able to provide some kind of incentive for them, that's important. Down to including, if it's only 2 people, maybe it's the ability every quarter to go to a movie and have a light dinner on you with some gift cards, or inviting them to a baseball game or a basketball game on your day off or the day that you're closed, or being able to donate to their favorite charity if they have one at the end of the year, or if they actually are physically fit and they play on a football or basketball team, actually providing refreshments for their team because you felt that they did a great job and you wanted to support them outside the workplace. You become very creative when you have smaller staff. So I definitely would love to have you lean into what are the more creative ways of rewarding and retaining your clients. I've got a quick one here, a quick question. It says, suppose a small business is able to invest and absorb the cost of having each employee take an anything DISC assessment for professional development. It will help them. Yes, so it will help the employer to identify. Yeah, absolutely. I would. Okay, so let me read it, because I'm reading and not reading at the same time. So let me be far more mindful here. From Shauna, she says, suppose a small business is able to invest and absorb the cost of having each employee take an everything DISC assessment for professional development. It will help the employer to identify those individuals on their team and how they can add value in particular positions or areas of the company. The employee will also be invested in that employee with the gift of professional assessment by building self-awareness and learning more about their behavior and leadership skills. Would you suggest this for small businesses? I would say yes. And I suggest this. Actually, this is a very interesting tool. Sometimes it can be subjective, so you have to understand the essence of it. But being able to determine if a person, where a person is within their propensity to work in the workplace. So if you got someone that's an extrovert versus someone that's an introvert, someone that is much more strategic and very numbers conscious versus one that is much more high level thinking, all of those are really actually very good traits to know on the front end. But all of us have a little bit of everything that DISC has in our personality and can do it. It's just that it provides us a snapshot of what we're more apt to do given the work environment. And I do think it's a good one to be able to give everyone a quick introduction to who people are other than their names and where they come from. It gives them something to work with and be able to know how to best interface with one another. And so I think it is a good tool to use. I've seen it be used with small businesses that have 5 to 15 people, because I think that it gives everyone a framework of how to operate. So I hope that answers your questions. And then Moran, will I send out the recording and slides? I can definitely do that. I'm glad that I'm giving you a lot of information because I think it's important for all of the people who decided to come today to really lean into the pieces and parts that are effective right now for you, and hope that maybe some of the other things that were covered today will be good tools for you to reach into your toolbox and retrieve at a later date. You know, some of the things that I'm talking to you about now will hit everybody, you know, differently, just because they're at different stages of their businesses. But what I was hoping to do today with a presentation is being able to give you the, you know, the big smorgasbord, and that you can then kind of pick and choose what you'd like to taste. In the context of new companies that are just looking for one employee, the same thing will apply to you than it would apply to those who are hiring 5 or 15 people. Being able to identify goals and objectives, hire appropriately, being very clear with your job description and giving goals, and being able to communicate and check in with your employees is important. If they are left in an island, they're going to do what they think they need to do to survive in the business. And quite frankly, it might not align with what your brand is. So communication, 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 and many different facets, be it the job description, the goals on the wall, or being able to stop and tell them that they do a great job, or being able to ask them what they think the customers are feeling about the products that they're selling, is very important. And it continues to engage them and keeps them sitting in that seat for you, and stop some of the bleeding that seems to be happening most recently that I see in a lot of the businesses. I know it's been a big issue lately, having individuals try to find really good employees. And I am of the school that what we need to do more of as we are looking for employees is explain and find out what they want to do, but moreover, how that aligns to what you need to have done and how it aligns with your brand, and then articulate and see the vision of how they can make an impact in your business, and show them how that can manifest in the work that they do. But when they come in their first day, it's not just a welcome, but it really is having an opportunity to work alongside them for a little bit to determine if in fact they're getting it, and then where they're flat, being able to give them the reinforcement that they need. Does that mean that you're going to have to work a little bit longer? Yeah, that might mean that. But if you get a really good employee that gets you and understands the mission and the brand, in less than 30 days, you'll be given some of the time back that you right now are suffering through, because it's only you. It looks like we have another question out there. Let's see what we got. Hello, thank you for the great tips. You're very welcome. Can you also address your expertise on dealing with employees that need to be reprimanded, how to learn as an employer to correctly address issues and avoid confrontation? All righty, well, this is my favorite. It really is. Here's what happens. Because your employee has a different take on what it is that they have to do or are doing, it's important to address the issue head on. So there's some tips I still do give, and they're some of my favorites. For those who have, and so let me just recognize this. You bring your whole self to work, period, at the end. That means you bring the coffee spelt on the homework of your child. You bring someone who cut you off on the expressway. You bring a run in your pantyhose. You bring your child catching a cold, but you got to get to work on time. So unfortunately, you're dropping them off sick. You bring all that with you. And unfortunately, it's hard to switch and turn on the customer service acumen that is important for that person to do a great job on the floor. And oftentimes, If they are left to their devices to continue to bring that whole self energy, then it does tend to erode morale and cause issues within the workplace. And so, practice that I tell store owners to do is that you need to have some kind of something for them to touch. Be it if you have a tree outside your office, tell them to touch the tree. I know this sounds so crazy, but for them to figure out how to shift, and that you sympathize with the fact that they are having that kind of day, because everybody does, and you're not trying to discount it, but you know that they bring the very best, and that's why you hired them, and you need them to show up and bring their very best. And so you ask them to put their hands on a rock or a wall or whatever, and that represents the place where all those issues are being held for them for that day. And as soon as they touch it and take their hand off of it, then they have to switch into the very best person possible. And then they can touch that same space on their way out the door if they choose to want to have that going back home with them. But what you're saying to them is that I identify, I understand, but right now what I need is this. And so I'm willing for having you hold it on the wall, but I need you to shift into being focused. If you still get an individual who doesn't quite get that and believes that the client is going to get some of that energy that they are trying to not, that they have presently, then it is time to definitely take them off the floor and take them to the back and have a conversation. So how do you think that went? How do you think that client really processed what you did? And they can either tell you what they saw, or they're going to acquiesce and say, well, I don't know what you're talking about, and act like there's nothing there. Well, then you're responsible for being able to share what that experience was and how you observed it. And what they need to understand is that in the moment in which they're interfacing with a client, there are others watching. There's others that are observing to see how professional they are and how the store as a whole, the brand, handles difficult situations. So when you're dealing with employees that don't quite get that, then it becomes at a point in which you need to not be afraid to say, that is unacceptable. I need you to do something different. And this is what I expect. And if we aren't able to get on the same page, these are the things that will happen. And that includes potential termination. You need to be in a position where if you think that this person is just having a bad day, you need to be able to read that person enough to give them the space for them to get themselves together, but the clarity that you're running a business that requires them to be 100% and that you are looking for that from them. So I hope that gave some clarity or some ideas. So anonymous attendee, did that give you some tips, or would you like me to delve deeper? Please put it in the chat. Hello, is hiring family a great start to a small business? If your family understands exactly the same mission or on the same page that you're on. So for instance, if you are starting an ice cream shop and you need your mother and father to help you with that by being able to be available in the ice cream shop when product is coming in, or actually help, not necessarily help scoop ice cream, but be in the store to help with stocking and some backroom experiences, and they know that that's their job, that's great. But there's sometimes where you have family who who will be a part of your business, and if they don't understand the mission and their roles, will bleed into areas that might not be appropriate. So in order for you to have family in your business, you need to be very clear with them, just like you would be with any other individual, on their roles and responsibilities and what you expect from them, and get them to say yes and agree to it. Because if they don't, and they're kind of like, oh, but I'm family, you need to be very clear. No, I need you to operate in this role, because here's the other side of that. If you have a mix family members, and then you end up hiring somebody from the outside individuals are always going to come in thinking that the family has a leg up on them and that there's no opportunity for them to grow or to be seen. And you don't want that to be the case. However, I have to tell you, when I started my intimate apparel business, my kids were really a great help to me, because I had a lot of merch that needed to be taken out of the boxes. I had a couple of steamers. They learned how to steam clothes. They learned how to fold t-shirts appropriately. They learned a whole lot about how to keep stock folded, looking neat, and they helped me. And I think it gave them a sense of pride that they were part of something bigger than just the store, but they understood what the store meant to other people. So the inspirational pieces are really pretty cool when you're clear with your family members on what it is that you're trying to do, because they want you to succeed, as opposed to someone that doesn't really know you that well. It is a double-edged sword, though, if you just assume that your family knows what they should do and you don't give them the clarity that they need. The next question I have, great presentation. Thank you very much, especially the first 3 slides talking about sharing mission. Did you read E-Myth? Yes, I did. Okay. My question is that I have found success in finding employees by getting in alderman newsletters, emailing teachers, professionals to share the position. Is there are more consistent ways to recruit students, such as job fairs, job boards for CPS students that you're aware of? So let me tell you that I have used all of those, and I've done the job fair boards, and I've actually, with certain schools that I think are teaching the kinds or have the energy of students that I like, I've actually called the principal and asked if there's some activity or some fair or some event that's happening at the school where I could come and do a presentation, or is there a possibility that I could do a quick commercial in a social studies class to be able to help them understand that these job opportunities exist, and they've given me that platform to do that. I have sent, for college students, I have sent them to the job placement facilities in the various colleges, like at Lake Forest, College of Lake County, Harold Washington. Some of the I find it really interesting. In some of the junior colleges, I get a lot of traction because of the nature of them needing to work and go to school at the same time. So they actually go and look at the boards more than the 4 universities like the Lake Forests and the IITs and the DePauls and the Loyolas, because the 4-year curriculum has them really more ingratiated in trying to get out of the college versus the city colleges or the 2-year colleges, where they're used to a much more transient working class of students going there that are always looking for work to do. I've also found it to be very interesting to use organizations like the Divine Nine. Sometimes you can get it in front of some of the sororities and fraternities, because they too try to reach out and have job opportunities for young people. And I've also found it to work with the more master level for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts to be able to get in front of them, especially because their whole position is about doing quality work and being socially responsible. So that might be another great resource for you to tap into for student workers, individuals between the ages of 16 and 22. Let's see if I have another question. I think that, yep, I answered all the questions in the chat. So let me give you a couple other things to nosh on. I know we're getting close to the hour, and I want to make sure if there's any opportunities to answer any other questions, I wanted to do that for you. I have to ask each one of you that are listening to be very intentional about how you hire against your own personality, which means that I need you as an entrepreneur, as leadership, to ask yourself, how do you work? And then what do you need to complement how you work? Not have yourself replicated, because sometimes there's some flat sides that you really need to attend to, but you need someone to round yourself out, someone that in areas that you might be deficit in. So if you're great in social media but horrible in let's say being able to take flyers or going to the churches or going doing outward facing guerrilla marketing, then you might want to find someone that could be very encouraging and excited to do that kind of work. I can tell you, I had quite a few of our clients, we invited them to be with us for Sundays on State last year. So we were there with 16 of the companies that we coach. And they gave us an opportunity to see them live and in color on how they interface with clients. And I had one booth where the individual just sat the whole entire time and waited for individuals to come to get their products. And I had to go over and say, so are you having any sales today? No, not so many. I said, well, can I ask you, just to humor me, why don't you just stand up for a couple, about 10, 15 minutes and start moving some things around on your table and see if you can catch some eyes of individuals walking by and see if they come and then they're far more engaged. And as soon as she stood up and started moving things, people started coming to her. But because she was sitting back and was being very reserved, and she honestly, at the end, she said, you know what? I'm pretty shy, and I typically have a few people that I can have help me work in my store, but I don't necessarily interface with my clients in a much more extroverted way. And I said, well, that's good that you know that you don't have that skill, but you can't come to any event without that person to round you out, because you miss a selling opportunity. And so what I'm asking each one of you is to think about who you are, what you do well and what you don't do well, and start looking for the complement of the flat sides in the kinds of people you hire. And I think you'll be very surprised and happy that you'll actually learn something from the people that you employ. So I wanted to put that out there because I have seen some owners not have the full scope of what it is that they need to be able to move their businesses forward, and yet continue to do it the same way and don't get the results that they seek. And so you kind of get my point there. The next slide that I have for you really is for you. And as a business owner, you know, bringing great people into your team is about demonstrating, you know, that size really doesn't matter. People do. You know, it is your energy and the people that you bring in that represent your brand that brings your brand alive. On paper, it's fantastic, but when you see it like a ballet, when you can think about the steps, but once you see the performance, it's breathtaking. It's the same concept. When it's in your head and you write your first business plan and you're writing it down, there's nothing more exciting about seeing it in action, and seeing people respond to it and giving you the feedback that that you were hoping that you got from the work that you put on paper and brought into fruition. And it's important for you to understand that every business starts small and then it grows. The growth comes and the way you're able to address your clients, being able to understand the market, being able to have the right people, being open and receptive to understanding you can't be everything to everybody, determining what is your sweet spot and how you would expand and what that's going to require for you to expand your brand and your business, and doing it in a very methodical way where it does not dilute your original brand. I also need you to understand that, like Nicole Snow says, a small business is an amazing way to serve and leave an impact on the world that you live in. We're all, if you believe in the butterfly effect, every time you go into your business and do it well and have a great day, it shifts the world's axis just a little bit. It makes a difference in the lives of not only the individuals that you have working for you, but the customers that encounter the work and the services that you provide. And so that is important for you to remember, that it's not just what you see in front of you, but it has a whole effect on the universe that you're in. So again, today, I am so very happy that I was able to spend some time with you. And I hope that the words that I've shared and the slides that I provided will help you as a business owner understand more about how to retain your client, your employees, how to retain your clients through your employees being communicated to, having great structure, understanding their roles, being complimented, being able to stretch their wings within the confines of you letting them know that they have done a good job and you want them to do more, through how you give them the projects that they do and helping them understand that they are bigger than themselves when it comes to the brand, and that you are giving them the kind of leadership that makes them want to get up every day and come and do their best work for you. So with that being said, I'd like to ask if there's any other questions that I may answer for you in the Q&A. Okay, I think we're pretty good there. So at this point, we've got a couple more minutes. So I will kind of do a quick little shameless plug for the work that we do at the Y, if I can. So the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago provides a business and entrepreneurship program called the Breed Love Entrepreneurship Center, which you saw in the first slide. It is named after the wonderful and inspirational individual that you might know, not as Sarah Breedlove, but you know her as Madam C.J. Walker. Here's a woman who started a small business that took off to be able to be, as I see it, the mother of franchise businesses. She was able to provide a business model for women to do great work in helping them from an economic perspective, economic empowerment through selling beauty products, beauty hair products. And from Madam C.J. Walker's book, not only did she inspire and create more business owners, but she was able to give back to the community at large, be it universities and organizations that she thought really made a difference in shaping and helping the Black community. And as the YWCA's mission is to empower women and eliminate racism, we believe in our business, an entrepreneurship center, to be able to provide those kinds of skill sets and resources to help you be able to do your best work. And so we have opportunities for individuals who are starting their businesses, or we have an SBDC. For those who are nonprofits that need coaching and assistance, we have our economic collaborative, our empowerment collaborative that allows you to get fractional resources to help you grow your business. We have a couple of accelerators, and one most popular, which is our Breed Love Accelerator, focusing on African-American women in late-stage businesses to help them determine their exit strategy. So we do a full ecosystem of business and entrepreneurship coaching so that we can help our community stand up and be able to thrive and add more value to the community at large. It looks like I've got two more questions in the comments in the okay, let's see. How do you find your first few employees? It's a plumbing company. So I'm going to tell you that if I had a plumbing company, the first few employees I would have, I'd start off with Washburn and Kennedy King. I go to those colleges where I know that they're being taught really good uh, skills around plumbing. I also look at opportunities um, to see if there is a job posting opportunity at Home Depot, Lowe's, and at Menards, because there's quite a few people who go to the customer service desk looking for individuals in this area. There has to be individuals who are also looking to become employed in those areas. So I would definitely put some job postings at those organizations. I also think that there is, as the trade schools are in the Chicagoland area, there's a lot of companies that actually have their own internal trade school to be able to teach the critical pieces that are needed before they get certified in plumbing and masonry and those kinds of things. I would reach out to just to see, do your own marketing research. What does ABC teach that allows them to have plumbers on their staff? Just to make sure that you check out the competition, do your market research, where they get their people from, and then from there also set up a strategy of seeing if that same resource could work for you. So the three things I've just said is that I would definitely check the schools that teach the skill. I would definitely lean into the resource stores that tend to have plumbers come and either and or consumers come to get plumbers, because there then could be a great opportunity for you to get someone to work with you, even if that's on a freelance perspective. And then last but not least, check out where your competition is getting their people to be able to lean in and see if in fact that might be a good resource for you. I hope that worked. That answered the question for you. And then the last one here, last two. Yes, the information that I have today will be available to you, and my email address is at the top of the slide, so you can reach out and find out more information about either this presentation or the services that we have at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. And then I have a question: how would I be able to find good candidates for my towing company that I just opened, or should I start just me for a little while and then start? So here's what I'm going to tell you. Your towing company, we need to identify how much you could actually handle in the course of having, and handling the tows. So it's you and your truck, and you're able to connect with AAA. So whenever anybody is on as in need of a tow, you get your business through them, and you're then maybe you could actually see how much work you can take on before you start hiring people, because in your business plan you should be able to determine what your present expenses are and what it is that you need to make and how many tows that you need to have in order for you to not only break even but to make a profit. And it's from that then you can determine how many trucks you might need in order for you to make a exponential profit. But I would definitely make sure I go back to my business plan and look at exactly how much money I need to make in order to maintain my truck, in order for me to make a profit and cover all my expenses. And that will then dictate how many jobs you take and how much you charge. And if in fact if you're able to then maintain that and start seeing more growth because of the excellent work you're doing, then I would start looking at expanding my business. If you're able to find someone that has a truck and can do the same thing with you, you just need to sit down and make sure your expenses and your expenses against your profits are in alignment, so that both of you are able to be paid and be able to be reimbursed for gasoline, upkeep of truck, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that helped. And then can you provide information or website where we can find more program? Yes. So if you reach out to my email, I will definitely send you the URL for the YWCA services that we provide. And thank you for the compliment. Thank you very much. All righty. Well, we are now at 10:53, and I know that there might be some more information that needs to be provided by the city. But can I just tell you, it has been a joy to be with you this morning and talk to you about how to hire your employees and being able to retain them. And I am excited about what small businesses are able to do in this country. It is how we were all built. And I know that everyone on this call is very creative and is adding value to their community. And I'm standing for your success. So thank you very much for this morning's presentation on how to bring the best out of your employees' entrepreneurship leadership. I'm Cheryl Hudson Jackson, Director of Franchise and Business Enterprise for the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. And again, I thank you and have a fantastic Friday. And I'll be handing the call back over to the city.
Thank you so much for Ms. Jackson for today's presentation. I hope that all our attendees got the much information that they were looking for. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program and would like to receive credit for today's webinar, please send an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To learn more about our upcoming webinars, please visit chicago.gov/business education. This webinar was recorded and will be posted on youtube.com/Chicago BACP. And have a great weekend. Thanks again, Ms. Jackson.
You're very welcome.